What's up guys, Balloon Duelist here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my DDD deck profile. DDD is one of my favorite decks from back when I was first getting into the game, and it's just a deck that I had a lot of fun with creating it, going through the stages of going from casual to a more competitive player in the game. And you guys might notice in the list that there are, I believe, 8 cards missing, and those cards are up for your guys' decision if you want to run hand traps, extenders, or just more consistency searchers and stuff in the deck. So if you guys like the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because it only helps the channel grow strong. Without further ado, let's get into the main deck. Starting off, you run 3 of the big guy, Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. He has, in his Pendulum effect, he says that if a DD monster is special summoned, then you could target a DD monster in the graveyard and special summon it. You take 1,000 damage for doing this, and all damage that your opponent takes is halved. He also has the effect of if he is normal or special summon, you could target a DDD monster in the grave and special summon it. He also has the added effect that you contribute a DD monster to target a card on the field and banish it, because why not? Up next, you run 3 DD Savant Copernicus. Copernicus, in the Pendulum scale, has the effect that if a effect would be activated that would deal damage to you, you can use his effect to negate it and destroy himself. And his normal effect is if he's normal or special summoned, you can send a DD or Dark Contract card from deck to grave. This can be used to get your Swirl Slime, Necro Slime, Lamia, whatever you need in the grave for extending plays. Speaking of which, we run 3 Swirl Slime. Swirl Slime is the starter of the deck. You can use his effect in hand to fusion summon a DDD fusion monster using materials from your hand. And then in grave, you can banish him and summon a DD monster from your hand. So this can be used to extend your plays, summoning out a Lamia, Copernicus, something that'll help you get further along with your end board. Up next, you run 3 DD Lamia. Lamia is your tuner of the deck, and she has the effect that you can, if she's in hand or grave, you can send a DD monster or a Dark Contract card you control, or in hand, to the graveyard to special summon her. She is banished once she leaves the field after using this effect, however, so that can be a downside, and you need to regulate how many Lamias you're using, and how many you have banished. Next, for one of your other starters, you have DD Savant Kepler. Kepler is your main normal summon. On summon, he can either return a DD monster card you control to hand, or his main effect, you can add a Dark Contract card from deck to hand. This will be adding you your Gate or Swamp King if you already have Gate. He also has the Pendulum effect that if he's in the scale during your standby phase, you reduce his scale by 2, and then destroy any monsters you control that are not DD monsters that have a higher level than his scale. This effect does not come up much because most of the time when you have him in the scale, you're destroying him immediately after. For the last DD monster, you run 3 DD Necro Slime. This is the main package of your entire deck. You can run some of the other DD monsters to extend more plays, but this is slimmed down to what you need to play the deck. Necro Slime, when he is in the graveyard, you can banish him plus another DD or DDD monster to fusion summon. He's one of your extra extenders in grave because you have so many ways of sending cards from deck or hand to the grave. That's it for the DD monsters. On to the spells and traps. You run 3 Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness, you run a ton of dark monsters, and you don't need to worry about banishing any of your DD monsters because you run 3 of everyone. Next, you run 3 Dark Contract with the Gate. On activation, well, not on activation, but during your main phase, you can add a DD monster from your deck to your hand. This can add any monster from your main deck. It also has the downside that during your standby phase, you take 1,000 damage. This effect does not matter because you are going to be dealing a ton more damage to your opponent than you are going to be burning yourself for. Next, you run 3 Pot of Desires. As I said earlier, you're running 3 of all your main DD monsters and DDD monsters, so banishing 1 or 2 of them doesn't really matter. Plus, it's a free draw too. That's it for the main spells. Onto the one-ofs, you run Foolish Burial. Almost all of your monsters have effects in Grave. Sorry, but this is just an easy way to get an extender in Grave. Called by the Grave to stop your opponent's hand traps. Dark Contract with Swamp King can be used to fusion summon a DDD fusion monster using materials from your hand, field, or grave. Monster Reborn, an extender play, and 1-for-1 to get out your Kepler or Lamia, Necro Slime, whatever you need. That's it for the main spells. And for the 8 missing cards, you can run certain cards like hand traps, but you can also run extenders. Not extenders, more consistency searchers, such as War of Thou or Jack in the Hand. War of Thou, if you control a level 1 monster, you can add one level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. You take 2,000 damage at the end of the turn if you did not normal summon said monster added to hand. Jack in the Hand reveals 3 level 1 monsters from your deck. Your opponent takes 1, and you take 1. The last one gets shuffled back to the deck. These are just a few other cards that you can run if you feel like your deck's not consistent enough. Or if you want to make it more competitive, you can just run a ton of hand traps. But that's it for the main deck. Onto the extra deck. You run 3 DDD Flame King Genghis. Flame King Genghis, when he's on the field, if you special summon a DD monster, you can special summon another DD monster from the grave. He also has the added effect that if he's sent to the graveyard, being destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a Dark Contract card from the grave to hand. Up next, you run the 1 DDD Flame High King Genghis. Flame High King Genghis has the same effect as Little Genghis, but he has the added effect that it is also when a DD monster is normal summoned or special summoned. Little Genghis only triggers off a special summon. But Big Genghis, if a DD monster is special summoned, well, normal or special summoned while he's on the field, you can special summon another DD monster from grave. He also has the added effect that if your opponent activates a spell or trap during your turn, you can use his effect to negate it. That's it for the fusions. Onto the synchros, you want to run Formula Synchron for the Helka Fibrax, DDD Gust King Alexander. Alexander, if a DD monster is normal or special summoned while he's on the field, you can special summon a level 4 or lower DD monster from the grave. Up next, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is a monster negate and can help you beat over some of your opponent's bigger targets. DDD Cursed King Siegfried. He is a amazing part to this deck. He can help you get around certain cards that can't be responded to, like Dark Ruler No More states that your opponent cannot respond to it with monster effects. So if you run a few traps in the deck, you can run Trap Trick and stuff like that. You can use Trap Trick, then chain Siegfried because he targets a spell or trap card on the field and negates its effects. So you can go activate your trap, then chain Siegfried targeting the Dark Ruler No More, and this gets around the clause that your opponent can't respond to Dark Ruler No More with monster effects, because you can still respond to your own cards with monster effects. Last for the synchros, you run Satellite Warrior. Satellite Warrior, he can destroy a card that your opponent controls for each synchro monster in the grave. When you're summoning him, you have at least 3 in grave, so you can destroy 3 cards. He also gains 1,000 attack for each card destroyed this way. And he's got an additional effect that he can special summon a monster from the graveyard when he's destroyed or sent to the graveyard. He can summon monsters from the graveyard with Synchron, Warrior, or Stardust in their name. That's it for the synchros. On to the XYZs. We run the Big Mouthful, number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Try saying that 5 times fast. This monster is a spell negate, and also if your opponent were to declare an attack while he is on the field, if they attack another monster you control, you can detach material from him, and the attack target is switched to him. And he's a 3,000 beat stick, so he will most likely swing over anything your opponent attacks with. You also run DDD Duodon King Kali-Yuga. Kali-Yuga is a, Heavy Storm on legs. When he is summoned, he negates the effects of all cards on the field. This also means that if your opponent has any set cards and they were to activate it afterwards, they will be negated. He has a Heavy Storm effect where you can detach material, destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. And he also has a recursion effect where you can detach a material and set a Dark Contract card from grave to your field. Last for the XYZs, you run DDD Wave High King Caesar. Wave High King Caesar is normally only used for the boards that you don't open too well, but you have enough to get to at least 2 Gengises on the field at once, because he is a non-once per turn special summon negate. If your opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect that would special summon a monster, you can detach a material from him, negate the summon, negate the card or the summon, and you can target another DD or DDD monster you control. That monster gains, I believe, 1,800 attack, which is pretty useful, because you can actually get a Kepler that's pretty big. That's it for the XYZs. For the links, you run the 1 DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, on summon, you can put 2 DD or DDD monsters from your deck into the spell and trap zones as pendulum monster, in the pendulum scales, and then you take 1,000 damage. And he also has an effect during your opponent's turn that if he's destroyed by an opponent's battle or card effect, then he can special summon a DDD monster from deck or extra deck. However, one thing that people commonly mistake with him is that if your opponent destroys him and you use his effect to summon Kali Yuga, that Kali Yuga will negate everything on the field. This is not true, because Kali Yuga specifically lists when he is XYZ summoned, and this does not consider it as an XYZ summon. It is just a special summon. So that does not work. You can also run the Crystron Halqifibrax, Needle Fiber, whatever. When he's summoned, you can summon a tuner from the deck, and then during your opponent's turn, you can banish him and special summon a tuner synchro monster from your extra deck. Last but not least, you run Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep has many effects based on what it's pointing to, but the primary one that you're using is the fusion effect. If it is pointing to a fusion monster and a monster is summoned, if a monster is summoned and he's pointing to a fusion monster, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. This effect is used for extending plays, but you also use its synchro effect during your opponent's turn that your monsters gain 700 attack. There is 1 card missing from the extra deck that you guys can choose whatever you want to throw in. Most likely it would probably be a Borreload Savage Dragon or something like that to add on extra negations, but most of the time, when you're able to go into that, you're instead going into Siegfried because you're locked into DDDs, or you're going into Crystal Wing because you do not have a Link monster in grave yet. And that's pretty much it for the deck list. Let's move on to a few of the combos. Well, to a combo. For the first combo I'm going to be showing you guys, this is what you're going to need is Lamia, Swirl Slime, Necro Slime. But if you're missing out on, let's say you're missing out on any one of these, if you have a Kepler or a Gate in your hand as well, so I don't know, let's say you're missing out on Swirl Slime, you don't have that in hand, but you have these two and one of these, you can do the same combo. You just use these to get to your last combo piece. So just to show an example, let's say that we opened up that. We have Necro Slime, Kepler, and Lamia. We would start off by normal summoning the Kepler. Kepler will add the Gate, and you would use the Gate to add the Swirl Slime. That's all you would do. But let's say we didn't open these, but we have this. You will start off by using Swirl Slime's effect with Necro Slime, fusing them off into Genghis. You will use Swirl Slime's effect, summon the Lamia from hand, and Genghis effect targeting the Necro Slime to summon him. After this, you will synchro these two into Alexander, and you will link these two into your Cross Sheep. You will then use your Necro Slime's effect in grave with Genghis, banishing them both to fusion summon into your Flame High King Genghis. This will trigger Cross Sheep, targeting Lamia in grave. It will summon the Lamia, and then Big Genghis will trigger, summoning back the Alexander. You will then use these two to go into your Halqifibrax. Halqifibrax will activate to summon another Lamia from deck. And since you have not used Alexander yet, you will use this effect now, summoning back the second Lamia. You will then use these two to go into your Crystal Wing. In this combo, this way, you do have an extra Link monster in grave, so if you do run Borreload Savage Dragon, you can go into him instead, which is a better choice in this set combo. But you get a Crystal Wing, which is a monster negate, and then you use these two to go into your Abyss King Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh's effect activates, and you're going to put in Copernicus and Ragnarok into your Pendulum Scales. You will then use Lamia's effect, sending Gilgamesh to grave to summon herself. Your Ragnarok will trigger, summoning back the Alexander. You will then use these two. Alexander will go to grave, Lamia will be banished, to go into your Curse King Siegfried. Now, to play around Lightning Storm, you can have these cards in defense mode, and during your opponent's turn, when they activate a card or normal summon something, you could use Halqifibrax to summon out your Formula Synchron. And then, once you use one of these negates, let's say that you used, let's say in this situation you use both. So you have both of them, they don't have their effect to negate anymore. Once your opponent sets up a few cards on the field, you'll use Formula Synchron's effect with Genghis, with Siegfried, because you can recur the Siegfried. You cannot recur the Crystal Wing. So you will use those two to go into Satellite Warrior to destroy up to 3 cards because you have 3 Synchros in grave. And that's it. That's pretty much it for your main combo. Let's move on to the second combo. The second combo isn't going to be doing too much. It's just going to be if you need an extra extender, you will normal summon the Kepler. Kepler will add your Gate. Gate will add your Necro Slime. Your Swirl Slime and Necro Slime will fuse into Genghis. Then you will banish both due to Necro Slime's effect into another Genghis and just overlay into Siegfried. Caesar. That's it for the deck profile. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice night.